city violence sort of in Lexington in the past, I guess, in 4 days we had 3 shootings. The one I was looking at that happened Wednesday was a drive-by shooting over on East 7th Street. What is going on? Is this it's a summertime thing, or what do you think?
Well, it's never a summertime thing or a Christmas thing or a New Year's thing. Shooting at people is a serious crime. And, you know, I will always turn these things into this BS no punishment law, because we catch these people. The police arrest them, we convict them, and the judges put them right back on the damn street. And criminals operate with the idea of expected punishment. If they believe that they're going to be caught, convicted, and incarcerated, a significant percentage of them are going to do it. Now, you got some of these yo-yos who got absolutely no brains but a gun. Excuse me. And so what they end up doing is shooting. First thing, they start shooting.
What's our biggest precursor crime to a violent crime? Would it be drug activity? Is that generally one of the biggest things that you see that leads up to violence? Drugs, alcohol? What is normally there?
Are you talking about the shootings?
Well, shootings.
Let me talk about the shootings first. The shootings have, it may come about from somebody who is a drug dealer and has got another drug dealer.
Yeah.
But more times than not, it's this somebody has been disrespected in front of somebody else. Get that. And as a result, they're determined that they're going to get them. And the way they do it is they shoot at them.
Well, the point I was trying to lead you into is they have this category of violent and nonviolent crimes.
Right.
And it's sort of a myth to say that drug crime is not a violent crime, that burglary and theft, they're not violent crimes, because I guarantee you that if you ran the criminal histories of these people when they catch them that were involved in this shooting, this latest shooting we had, there was going to be drug activity more than likely in their past criminal history. And if they were serving the time that they were given initially on their drug activity, they wouldn't be out shooting people. So by incarcerating these folks before they get to that point where they've shot and killed or raped someone, you're getting ahead of the violence. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Which we don't do that anymore. And I think that's why we're seeing a spike in our violent crime ultimately as a result of not enforcing the other crimes that lead up to that. You know, most people don't start off as murderers. Most people start their career in crimes. They're either thieves or they're in drug activity. That's most people. That's their gateway crime, so to speak, before they reach the point of rape or murder. Normally, they're in that category. But we're not incarcerating those people before they reach that point where somebody gets killed. Is the point.
You've been to France recently. Last year. Yeah. Did you go to Normandy?
I did not.
Yeah. Well, I did. My wife and I just returned from a 2-week deal in France. And we spent a day up in Normandy at Omaha, the D-Day, Omaha Beach kind of thing. And the American National Cemetery. That's American property in France. And there are 9,600 American soldiers that are buried there. Boy, you want to talk about a somber thought. And I tell you, I've thought a lot about this, especially since Memorial Day has come and gone. And I'll tell you something. I wondered what these guys sacrificed it all over there. And what did they do? I mean, it's just, you know, it sounds trite, but it's fighting to maintain freedom. And it's true. And the question I thought to myself as I was wandering around all those 9,600 graves was, what in the world are we doing to try to do our part for freedom? Because I'll tell you something, I became very angry because the people we elected aren't doing their part. They have dropped the torch of punishment and responsibility for crimes. They just abandoned our beliefs, and they're no longer representing the public and their beliefs. They're representing themselves. And freedom, let me tell you, the more crime happens, and crime's down in Lexington, but these repeat offenders and these shots fired and all this kind of stuff scare people in our town.
I think people in this town feel like crime is down. Statistically, crime is down?
Yes, but we could really kick ass and take names here if we would put the repeat criminal offenders in custody and keep them there as long as we can, because those are the people that keep the crime rate up to where it is now.
What about more police? Are there things that you think that would help that? I mean, that often comes up as far as our police manpower. Do you know where we're at now as far as the police manpower?
Yeah, we're at we're one below the authorized number, 555, authorized 556. We got a lot of police, and you know, it's not the police, it's the court system, and it's the legislature that's passing these catch and release laws, soft on crime, criminal coddling, hug a thug, and I got a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Our court system is just like going to the state fair and playing whack-a-mole because the same people keep popping up, and that's just where it is. So, you know, but you know, we seem to talk about that almost every week. And what was your buddy that said, can't you guys think of something else to talk about? Well, you ought to come hang out with me.
Oh yeah, check out LexingtonProsecutor.com. There's plenty to talk about there.
Let me ask you this, or let me tell you this. This is a great. Remember how Big Tobacco was sued by all of these tort lawyers? Remember? Mm-hmm. Just kind of put tobacco out of business here. Didn't put them out of business in France because, man, everybody's smoking over there.
Right.
You go to Asia, everybody's smoking over there. So what happens is this, and this is a great article. Communities are not helpless before the onslaught of marijuana, even when criminal law has been compromised at the state level. Guess what? Here come the trial lawyers, the plaintiffs' lawyers. Marijuana is far, far more injurious, dangerous to its users. I mean, it contains far more toxins than tobacco. And now that you got Colorado legalizing it, Washington legalizing it, guess what? Then you got people who are legally producing it, and you got people who are authorized to sell it. Guess who's going to be following up soon? The plaintiffs' lawyers, and they're going to sue for damages for clients that have turned into addicts, that kind of stuff. We're going to see this thing happen all over again.
Well, what's going to be interesting with that is the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, regulates everything. Okay, but they're staying out of this one because at this point it's still illegal according to federal law. But at some point there's going to be tainted marijuana. There's going to be, and they're going to have to step in and start regulating it. They're going to have a regulatory agency for marijuana. And did you ever think you would see the time in the United States of America where there will be a agency that's regulating marijuana?
Well,
for
unfortunately, under this administration, nothing surprises me, especially this dip. Eric Holder, who tries to act like attorney.
But that's going to happen. Just give it time. It's going to happen, and then I guess they'll either have to decide to officially legalize it or enforce the law again, and do something about it.
Can I give you a victim's voice thing? How much time do you have?
We got about 4 minutes left.
The Supreme Court reversed a death sentence called Hall versus Florida, and this is what the author, Anthony Kennedy, said. Florida seeks to execute a man because he scored a 71 on the IQ test. You're not supposed to execute people. That's what he said. That's what Florida said. They seek to execute this guy because of that. Wrong. Let me tell you the story. This is one of your pet peeves. In Florida, February 21st, 1978, this bad guy, Freddie Lee Hall, kidnapped Carol Lee Hurst from the parking lot of a grocery store as she was carrying her packages to her car. In her own car, some 18 miles away, into another county, into the woods, a quarter of a mile off the paved road. There, in the front seat of her car, he forced her to remove her clothes, then he raped her. He listened to her cry, and he listened to her beg for her life and the life of her unborn child. He watched her write a check for him to cash in return for her life. Then he beat her so hard that it tore the flesh of her neck and shoulders through the fabric of her denim jacket. Then he killed her by firing a bullet into the back of her head, either pulling the trigger himself or encouraging another to do so. There is evidence that has been presented to the court. There is no evidence that's been presented to the court, says the sentencing judge, that reasonably mitigates the aggravated nature of this act. Karen Hurst was a human being, not a test score. So was her 7-month unborn baby. The suffering and terror are shamefully minimized by this BS opinion, and her memory is insulted by the flippant, thoughtless, and cruel statement in the opinion that the test score is the reason that Florida seeks to execute this killer. Now, you have said a long time that the media forgets about victims.
Well, the gory details of this murder, they don't even go there. You know, years later, all they talk about is the last meal that this guy is going to have, or what his IQ score is.
Right.
And regardless of how you feel about the death penalty, you should take a look at the whole situation before you make your decision there, and you need to hear that stuff. I mean, if they're going to report on it, they need to report exactly what you reported, which is on the record. That's what happened to the girl. And then, and then people can talk about his last meal too, and just see where their sympathies lie. I mean, it just boils down to that.
In California, a defendant who violently raped 40 or so women in the 70s was put in a state mental institution, and now he is being released by a California judge. Catch this. He's going to wear a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week GPS monitor on his ankle and will be accompanied by security people every time he goes out in public for the first 6 months. He will be transported to therapy sessions twice a week. Now, I'm going to tell you, what a buffoon is the person. They think that this guy is going to be cured by therapy. Not a chance. It's another insult to victims. Mm-hmm. And until victims finally get fired up, we're going to have this stuff.
Who you got with you?
Allison Cox. Allison, who are you? Where are you from? Where do you go to school?
My name's Allison Cox. I just finished my first year of law school at Washington and Lee University. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and I went to Transylvania for undergrad.
Yes, and we introduced you. One of the great things about Allison, she can't remember names. of anybody that she works with, and so we just humiliate her a little. And she just hates me for that, but she'll get over it. So tell me, are you enjoying yourself so far this summer?
Yes, I really am. We've only been on the job about 3 days, but I've got to see a variety of different things in court and help attorneys with projects and trials coming up, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Good. Well, she's a real treat. She's verbal, and she's smart. Well, she says she's smart. That sort of thing. We're
Bad
glad
memory.
she's here.
Bad memory. You remember my name?
Officer John.
Ah, see?
Got that.
You just need a more catchy name.
And Ray the DA.
If you want to deal with Allison, you're going to have to spice your name up a little bit.
That's right.
That's
Well, we'll have to figure those out for the people whose names you didn't know.
I'll come up with nicknames.
Just
That'd be
tell them to
good.
wear tight shirts like me and come up with a more catchy name. You'll remember the tight shirt. We'll see you next week on InTouch.